What is cargo cult fascism? I made a video the other day where I referenced one of my favorite journalists, Jamelle Bouie, who I'm pretty sure coined this phrase. He was talking about Pete Kegsbreath's speech in front of our military leaders and how fucking cringy and embarrassing it was. I'm really sorry about the leaf blowers, y'all. I'm at the park. My kid is meeting up with some of his friends, and the leaf blowers are... You don't want to hear me go on my rant about how I think leaf blowers should be illegal for a whole host of reasons. Not the least of which is that the workers who are forced to use them are carbon monoxiding themselves. Okay, we're going to power through. So Jamelle basically said that what the Trump regime is doing is using the imagery, the trappings of legitimate fascism, like, Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin. It's the lecture to the military leaders. It's the gilded Oval Office, performing the rituals of fascism, putting forward kind of the aesthetics of it, and hoping to manifest actual fascism through it. I think Jamelle said it is the regime trying to conjure fascism into being. And that's precisely what a cargo cult is. Okay, so very quickly here, I'm not a historian. I am most familiar with this term when it is used in reference to cargo cult science. But a cargo cult itself, the prime example that people use is in World War II. We had Japanese and American soldiers who were going to these South Pacific islands with their airplanes. They were dropping and they were leaving a bunch of supplies, right? They were staging war. And we had these tribes who were less technologically advanced, were not familiar with airplanes, and they saw these deliveries of mass quantities of supplies, of cargo. And especially on Vanuatu, what we saw was the rise of these cargo cults, where we had the tribal members who would take up the behaviors that they saw the troops exhibiting. They would, for example, march in formation, or they would build an airplane or an air traffic control tower out of wood. They would build real runways. They thought that by engaging in these behaviors, by having the trappings, the imagery, by going through the rituals that mimicked what they saw from the troops, that it would manifest more cargo, more supplies, like falling out of the sky, being delivered to their island. The most famous example of a cargo cult is the John Frum cult. I think there are still members of the John Frum cult practicing today, where they believe in kind of a salvific messianic figure named John Frum, and that name is thought to come from American GIs saying, "Hi, I'm John Frum," and then listing, the United States or Minnesota or, Ohio, whatever. They believe in this messianic figure, John Frum, who will come back and bring supplies, great riches, great wealth. And so they go through the rituals of marching in formation, of, building runways, thinking that that will manifest wealth and riches falling down from the sky or being delivered by this messianic figure, failing to understand the actual mechanism through which the cargo was delivered. Right, so in cargo cult science, we have the same thing. It is this presenting like it's legitimate science. It's the posture, it's the ritual, it's the performance without any of the substance of real science. No real scientific investigation is going on. The phrase was coined in 1974 when physicist Richard Feynman gave a speech at Caltech, I think their commencement speech. And this is how I am familiar with the term. This is directly from his speech. He talks about the cargo cults in the South Seas. Says, so they arranged to make things like runways, to put fires along the sides of the runways, to make a wooden hut for a man to sit in with 2 wooden pieces on his head to be headphones and bars of bamboo sticking out like antennas. He's the controller and they wait for the airplanes to land. They're doing everything right? It's the ritual. It's the performance. The form is perfect. It looks exactly the way it looked before, when GIs were there actually being air traffic controllers landing the planes, right? But it doesn't work. No planes land this time. It's the same thing with pseudoscience or cargo cult science. They follow all of the apparent precepts and forms of scientific investigation, but they're missing something essential because the planes don't land. From Cambridge University, they're talking about various forms of cargo cult science here: homeopathy, crystal healing, UFOs, divining. They call it Fruit Loopery versus proper science. How very British of them. Of course, we see tons of that right now. We are living in an era where, pseudoscience is the name of the game. We have a complete snake oil salesman, grifter running our Health and Human Services. RFK Jr. is the epitome of cargo cult science. Wellness grifters are the epitome of cargo cult science. See this with wellness grifters a lot when they will drop tons of citations and have that be like the appearance, the trappings of being legitimate science. But then if you go read the journals that they're referencing, they're either one, not credible, or two, they are completely misrepresenting the actual experiments that are being done. They're like, no, see, I'm dropping a bunch of citations. So this is legitimate. What I'm saying is legitimate because I'm doing this performance of linking to a million different articles. They'll use language, scientific terminology, give the appearance that they are actually legitimate scientists instead of grifters and snake oil salesmen. But Jamelle is the first person I have seen use this term cargo cult in reference to the Trump regime, in reference to fascism. And I think he's absolutely right. His whole point is that the regime is very much, I like to say they're a paper tiger. I think this is also part of the reason that we think the Trump regime is so incredibly cringy, right? Everything that they're doing is so embarrassing. We got the most embarrassing, pathetic attempt at a would-be dictator, precisely because he's engaging in this cargo cult behavior. And that really makes sense in a lot of respects, right? Because Donald Trump was like a reality TV guy and Pete Hegseth is a Fox News host. So it makes sense that they don't actually understand how to do a fascism. They don't actually understand how to be Vladimir Putin. He just wants the military-style dictator-esque birthday parade. He just wants the gold-plated Oval Office. Want to go through the rituals that they see legitimate dictators using. I hate to use the phrase legitimate dictator, real dictators, real scary authoritarians using. He wants to go through the rituals, the behaviors. He wants to do the TV performance, but that's not going to manifest fascism. There's not going to be a plane that lands and drops off the cargo. And that, I think, was the point that Jamelle is making. We should not be, he's trying to do terrible things, right? He wants to do terrible things. He really wants to be a dictator, but he's either, too demented and too addled to understand. He's never been intelligent enough, right? I've always said, do not confuse Donald Trump's brutality for intelligence. He knows how to grift. He knows how to bully. He knows how to use his mafia-style tactics. That's what he's done for 50 years plus. Don't confuse that for intelligence. I think people often think that narcissists are far more intelligent than they are. What he is good at doing is using social norms, fear and intimidation to get you to comply. That doesn't mean he actually understands how to organize an authoritarian regime, and he doesn't know how to actually completely dismantle democracy, right? We already know he's heavily leaning on literal ghoul Stephen Miller and Russell Vought, the architect of Project 2025. He wants the performance of fascism without actually knowing how to manifest it. He thinks, and so many of his lackeys, RFK Jr., Brooke Rollins, Pete Hegseth, they're cringy and embarrassing, humiliating to us, right? We are an embarrassment on the international stage now. Pete Hegseth was like, if I call myself the head of the Department of War, God, that's so fucking cringe. And if I strut around on the stage like I'm giving a TED talk and I have all of these military leaders in front of me, that they're actually gonna suddenly be obedient and have allegiance to him and want to do what he's saying. He didn't say anything substantive. He just made fun of them. He went through this ritual without actually having a plan to get the military leadership to be loyal to the regime. In fact, all he did was piss off our military leadership by grossly disrespecting them, disrespecting our service members, and making a mockery of our armed forces. But he thought, like, I go through this performance, I have this meeting, and I strut around the stage. I'm doing all of the rituals correctly. That will somehow manifest fascism. So I hope that helps explain that term a little bit. Again, I'm pretty sure Jamelle coined this phrase, and it's so spot on. Please don't believe that just because they're going through the rituals that they are going to be able to take over the United States of America and completely dismantle our democracy. Yeah, we're going through it right now. They're trying to do bad things, but they're really bad at it. They're really, really bad at it. Because they don't actually understand the mechanisms. They don't actually have any science behind it. They are not in any way doing the right things. There's no substance to what they're doing. All of the rituals without being able to comprehend the strategy at all. I think Jamelle's whole point here is like, don't buy into their cult, right? Don't believe because you see a ritual that the plane is going to land. It's because he's got a bamboo antenna. That doesn't mean that he's talking to a pilot up in the skies, right? Hope that helped clarify that. Happy to talk about it more. I got lots and lots and lots of people asking this question. What is a cargo cult? What is cargo cult fascism? I hope that helped clarify it. And I think we should be using this term because I think it really is good at helping us conceptualize accurately what the regime is trying to do and all of the ways that they're really, really fucking it up and they're really bad at their job.